Okay, this video is referencing a file which is some arpeggios that are on two adjacent pairs of strings and have a string skip in between them. So this is sort of a two-part kind of assignment in that we want to first get what's on the piece of paper verbatim in a classroom sort of way before we can start to run with it and input some creativity and musicality or further musicality to it. So the first thing I want to mention is it's all in the key of G in this case, but again there are no open strings, so this is applicable to all 12 keys just by moving it around. One of the easy things about guitar, the nature of transposition when there aren't open strings involved. So anyway, with all that said, let's get the basic structures first. So the first one will be G major 7 chord, where that's kind of what it outlines in that it is an arpeggio. And so we have G on string 6, D on string 5, B on string 3, and F sharp on string 2. So if I put that together all with downstrokes with my pick, so it has a nice separation to it. That in itself, and that's kind of what the part B of this is, that in itself can be the beginning of a very beautiful line. But we'll get to that later, as I mentioned. Let's continue. The second chord, diatonically, would be A minor 7, and so that is fret 5, fret 7, fret 5, and fret 8. Those notes are A, which is the root, E, which is the 5th, C, which is the flat 3, and G, which is the flat 7. And that would be the same thing over here. Root, 5th, 3rd, major 7 in this case. So 1, 5, 3, 7, 1, 5, 3, 7. Again at B minor, 1, 5, 3, 7. And then major 7 at fret 8, 1, 5, 3, major 7. This is D7 or dominant 7, 1, 5, 3, dominant 7. Minor again. So that's the whole thing. So let me recap each one of those positions, not in the clinical way, but in a way to try to show you some things that you can do with them to help create lines. So let's just say we were going to use it verbatim, meaning we're going to play the notes in the order that they are, but we're going to insert some creativity. So instead of just going, I'm going to use the top note as my beginning of creativity, let's say. So here we go. As one of many options. So all I did, and I slid up a half step, and then just finished it with a line, which is technically right down the scale. Those are my last notes, D, A, and G. But I slid from the F sharp, so even if I took the top of it away, I didn't do this. How about just... So there's a nice melodic statement, but I'm drawing from this material to make that statement. All right, let's go to the A minor and give it a... Oh, actually, you know what? Let's stay on the G, and I want to show you something else. So I made my move on the second string. Well, can't we make a move on another string? Absolutely, of course you can. Let's go ahead and do that. So instead of moving this F sharp, remember that's our bass material, basic material. So instead of moving there, let's go ahead and move on the third string and make that our target of moving something around. So maybe we come up with something like this. And I may play it slightly differently each time, but the basic idea is... So again, to show you, I'm moving to the next possible scale degree. You could go farther. That's perfectly fine, but I'm just trying to keep it tight right now to keep it a little bit more simple. So there are two melodic statements that are based on just from moving that. Now you could move the lower note as well. Here's something really neat. I kind of moved it around, and then I skipped to the very first thing we did and finished differently. But again, this is to open up creativity and look at things in a different way. So let's now go ahead and move to the A minor, as I mentioned. Well, you know that this A minor looks like that minor pentatonic box that everyone knows. So if we were moving stuff around there, we could... So again, now I'm just kind of moving things around, but let me slow that down and keep it simple. We moved up each time. Let's move down this time. So let's target again, we'll target our B string for the movement, which we did in the first one. But instead of going up like I did when we were on G, let's go down this time from the A minor. Sorry. You can even use bends. I wanted to kind of point that out. So the material towards the end of that phrase is stuff that you're familiar with and that you know. I've heard you play. I know you're aware of that. But using this again as our launch pad to kind of get out of our own way, to think of it from a different perspective, this is very helpful. And so I'm randomly grabbing notes inside of that A minor pentatonic, but I'm also keeping in mind the G major scale. That kind of thing. So that's where those kinds of ideas are coming from. And so here's the B minor. Now we wouldn't be able to move down a half step if we were staying in the key of G, because this note is not in the key of G. But let's continue, since we did the minor where we moved downward, let's continue that again and let's use the minor and move downward, but now it's going to be more than a half step, and that's based on the notes within the key. So here's the B minor verbatim from the page. Okay, so let's move downward. Slid into the B with a different finger. So instead of sliding, how about we actually use a finger to do that instead of... How about we actually play it? It's a nice little melodic line. But again, the launch pad is this. That is my launch pad for sure. The major 7 is going to look like the other one. Whoops. And we moved a few of those notes around, so that could be the same thing. The D7. So again, you know, it's the launch pad and then using a little bit of your, what would I say, normal language or normal vocabulary. So if I can slide down like that and stay in the key, that means I can start with a bent note and release it. Instead of going here, I'm going to go here. and access those same two notes, which are C and B. Or both. And now I took the bend on this string as well. Sorry. But things like that can get you started. You'll have another E minor. And then you'll have this F sharp half diminished thing. Sorry. When I think about them a bunch, it's kind of hard for me to do it. I just have to kind of be in the flow of it. But giving you these examples. And these are very melodic statements. So let this be a launch pad for you to be able to do that. I would recommend, as far as practicing them, maybe start from the beginning and go all the way through, but also not forget to practice them backwards. Because you can come up with some other lines. Depending on how you want the direction of your lines to go. Enjoy the challenge.